The first one is safety and following the prophet. And I used President Lawson's conference talk from April on making choices. And the example of Alice in Wonderland when she doesn't know which road to choose, and the Cheshire Cat says it doesn't matter where you're going, and if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which road to choose. And that we do know where we're going, so we know which roads to choose. So in there, there's little worksheets for the younger children on listening to following prophets, and then videos for the older children on making choices and following there, and then a recipe for the traits. But this one, I'm gonna take this is the most fun I've had for a long time. This is on the temples, standing in holy places, so we can be secure, because we'll have inspiration from our Heavenly Father if we're in tune with the Spirit. Because what I did is I took all 16 temples in Utah and did a page on each of them with the facts on that page and a story about them, and encourage you to take your family to visit at least maybe 4 of them during the next year and discuss these things, have a tree on the lawn or whatever. But it was really, really enlightening. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn and study about that. So we'll check that out.
Can we get a copy?
Yeah, it's on the website. Okay.
So you just click on one of those buttons for whichever one you want, and it will pull it up, and then you can either print it out or just view it online.
Yeah, it's just got the temple and just different things about it and how you share your experiences with it, and symbolisms of Salt Lake Temple. There's a little overboard on that. So anyway, it's really fun.
I guess I'm next.
You're next. You're up.
Okay, I have to apologize. I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be. I was going to start off by just telling a little bit about my history and who I am. So, my name's Spencer Marsh. I moved here about a year ago, and my background or my work is I've spent just over 23 years in the United States Army, the last 14 of them full-time. During those 14 years, I spent 10 of them working on a rapid response team for weapons of mass destruction. And so I worked with the FBI, CIA, DEA, a lot of three-letter acronyms. And some of the stuff we did was responsible for when fire departments and other units got in trouble with certain circumstances and places, they would call my group. We'd go in with them and tell them what bad stuff was being made. So taking that, it's a little different than safety and security and what I'm used to, but I am a soldier, so we do a lot of training on that end. So just getting into it. So I did a lot of research. I started looking at what I could teach, and it's a huge subject. It's a massive subject. And I had to keep whittling it down to something. And so I got a 5 a.m. text a couple days ago, and I am up at 5 a.m., so I was not upset. But Kelly did text me at 5 a.m. saying, hey, what about this? And so when I got to a computer, I played around with it a little bit, and that's what I kind of focused on. And it strictly just talking about things we can do for home security, the physical aspect of what we can do to kind of protect our houses. So I pulled down some statistics from the FBI website, and they're all listed on here. Some of the statistics that are out there is right now, according to 2014, these dates come from 2014 with the data, every 20 seconds in the United States, a house is burglarized. 4,457 homes every day. 59% of the burglaries are forced entry. So they find a way to get in by breaking in somehow. 7% of those usually happen when we're not home. And that was one of the statistics that stood out to me. 97% of home invasions happen when people aren't home. And so we'll kind of figure out why and talk through a couple trends that were out there and some of the things that why that happens, why it happens when you're not home, and what we can do to kind of go over it. So the next thing I put in here, and you said it's not on the website, correct?
Which
the
one?
actual my Word document.
Yes,
No, it isn't.
it's right here. Just scroll down.
Okay. I don't know if you can
There you
see
go.
that. I don't know if we can. So, right there, if you can see it, I don't know. It says the top 6 items stolen when people break into your house. And so, what I wanted to do is kind of loosen everyone up and talk a little bit. So, if you can read those, we'll go over them. And then we're gonna talk as a group and try to figure out the order of those items. What is actually the number one most stolen item? And it actually kind of surprised me a little bit. So if you can see going on the list, it's clothes and shoes, prescription drugs, electronics, illegal drugs, jewelry, and cash. So that's the list of 6. So let's just start talking through. So who thinks, what is the number one item stolen in a house?
Laptop.
So you say electronics.
Clothes.
Yeah.
6.
Clothes. I'll give you credit. You are right. Clothes is number 6 on this list. But it is on the list in the top 6 items stolen. So we've got electronics. It's not number 1. It's clothes.
Prescriptions.
That's what I would assume. It's not number 1. That's actually
Illegal drugs.
number 5. We're getting closer.
shoes.
Cash.
That's on number 6. So
Jewelry.
cash.
Cash.
The number 1 item stolen is cash. And the easy reason why is because it's hard to trace. They can't. When cash is taken, you can use it anywhere and no one's going to question it. So number 2 was jewelry. They like to take it and steal the jewelry. They can sell the diamonds, the gold, or they can melt it down. Then this one surprised me. Illegal drugs is actually number 3. So I'm just assuming drug dealers stealing drug dealers. So, yeah, kind of surprised. Electronics was number 4. And so when I built this list, I called one of my friends in the FBI and we went back over it. I was asking him some questions and I said, why is electronics so low down? And I would have guessed electronics too. And it's because they're usually bigger and they're harder to get out. It's really obvious when someone's running down the street carrying a 42-inch flat screen.
Well, I had heard,
Like Palm Pilots, that's what I was,
yeah, I had heard about laptops because people do all of their bill pay
And
or
they can
whatever,
steal their
and they do a lot of identity fraud.
Yeah, he said that. He says if it's there, it's a target of opportunity, but really, it's the bigger items that scare him off. So prescription drugs and then clothes. So that was the list. It kind of surprised me. So what can we do to protect our own homes? So in thinking about that, I wanted to cover a couple things and see if I wrote them down. I didn't put them on here. So there was a list of things that people who case houses do that help them break into your house, so burglars. And they list a couple of these things that were out there. And so one of the things that was out there is obvious, they just park and watch. They want to know when you're leaving. So here's another question. When is the prime time that people actually break into houses to steal?
Daytime.
Sundays between.
Between 9 and noon and
Yeah.
pretty close, but it is actually during the day. The majority of them, over 80%.
When you're working.
When you're working, no one's home. They know that. People are out of the house. Kids are at school. Dad and moms are at work. You know, and so that's why that number was so high. That 97% of home invasions were done during the day, and people weren't home. So they like to watch your house. What are some other things they can do to start to guess when you're home and when you're not home?
Sometimes they pretend to be salesmen and try and get in your home.
Absolutely, and that's actually one of my trends that if you read the news lately, they call them the pushy solicitors that were going around Lehigh, and they were really adamant. They would just start pushing their way into the houses and talk and start looking around. And it was all over KSL just 2 weeks ago in Lehigh. So yeah, they like to act like solicitors. They act like salesmen. Facebook. I hate Facebook. I have to put it out there. Sorry. So back to my history. So right now I'm a company commander of 100 soldiers. So I run a large group of military intelligence soldiers that speak multiple languages and travel the world. So these soldiers, obviously a lot of them are ex-missionaries, so I send them everywhere. I got people in Ukraine right now, I have people all over Africa, I have people all over the Middle East. And it drives me insane when I get on Facebook and the first thing I say is, just checked into the Tangier, Morocco airport, or just checked into the Hilton, Cameroon, whatever it is place. And they do it constantly. And I know these people, and I'm like, you know what, that's really great. You just checked in at a hotel in Morocco, and now I've got 24 hours with your wife and 3 kids at home, because I know you. So, Facebook, that's a good one. What are some other things that people do? It's a little different than it used to be. One of the things I found in an article says they used to call your house to see if you answered, but can't do that anymore with cell phones pretty much, so they're not going to call. They will actually walk around your house. They'll say, if you catch them, they'll be like, oh, I'm looking for your meter. I'm a meter reader. And they'll start peeking in windows and see like that. Another thing they do is they sit outside your house at night and they look for lights. They wanna know when there's lights, you know, if the house is completely dark, either everyone's asleep or no one's home. So they will look at your house at night. Those are some of the trends. So I took those trends and I put them into some things that we can do to protect ourselves. So first thing that they came up with, that's on actually one of the FBI websites, was just report people that are suspicious in your neighborhood. We're actually really good at doing that in this culture. We're really good at, you know, sounding the alarm, scaring people off, running them out of town. So it's one of the things we're good at doing. Even Facebook, that's a good time to use Facebook. I don't know where all neighborhoods you guys are coming from, but here in the Stillwater neighborhood, I've seen things from, I can't find my daughter, has anyone seen her lately, and everyone will step outside and look around, and it's worked. We've things, and so Facebook, things like that. So some of the basic and easy things, lock doors. So I know my wife's grandma, she's from Gunnison, Utah. You could walk through her house and do anything you wanted to, and she would still be watching TV and not hear you. You could do anything you wanted in this lady's house. It's amazing, and she'd probably feed you.
We moved just a couple of months ago from Pleasant Grove. We had, in the ward we moved from, we had probably 5 women in the Relief Society who were at home when they burglarized the home, and they were there at home. And, you know, people thought that the people who broke in thought they were gone.
Yeah.
But they were at home. And the reason that they came in was because they had been checking out their home, and they had been able to get in the side door of their garage.
Kids leave it open.
And they found out that they often always left their door from their garage into their home unlocked. And so they knew that was the case. They had been watching the home, didn't think anyone was home, because they had seen a couple of cars leave, so they thought no one was home, and broke in, but the wife was at home.
Exactly.
So
lock your doors. I'll tell you what, I'm bad at it, but my wife is very good at it, and I go to bed very early because I get up very early, so my wife will wake me up around 9, which to me is late at night, but about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and she'll be like, have you checked the doors? And so I'll have to get up and wander around and check the doors to make sure they're locked. So she makes sure I do it, she won't do it, she gives me that nudge, it's my responsibility to lock the doors, so I gotta get better at that. But locking the doors is a big one. Another thing, windows. So windows are very easy to break into because you can break them, but a lot of times they don't want to make the noise, so locking windows. So what are some things we can do to make sure windows are more safe and that they're harder to get in through? I know what I do. I buy wood dowels from Home Depot, and so I actually learned something kind of tricky about that. It's really easy with a metal hanger to pop a dowel out of a window. So I'm actually looking at a couple other options going through that. So windows have those locks that you can buy from Home Depot. They're about $4, and they lock in there. And I actually like that idea because I have 3 bedrooms in the basement, and that's where all my boys sleep. And I like it for 2 reasons. One, if it's hard to get in, it'll be hard to get out, and I got 2 teenage boys, so I hope that I'll hear the noise. But I figure if they're breaking out, then that's an easy entry point for someone to come in. So I'm kind of watching what they do each night. So I like those hard locks. We'll put them on there. I'll use the dowel. The windows themselves, my buddy's that I grew up with, he's a window salesman. He has been for about 30 years. And he's taught me there's some little tricks that you can do to break those windows, like to get through. He said that they can take little pieces of metal and push really hard on the window before it breaks, and then slide the metal in through the middle of the window. And if they push hard enough, it'll pop these. They're building cheaper locks, and it'll pop them out. And so he said that they do that sometimes when they need to get into a house to finish construction. They'll pop a window through that, just a piece of metal. So
what are these locks you're talking about?
you can buy them at Home Depot, and they look like a U shape. And what they are is they look like this, and then you just got a tightening bolt on the back, and then you basically just put it down on the metal frame, and you can just tighten it down, and it'll put it in there. So the window will only go so far open.
Anything for vinyl? Because that would just dig into the vinyl.
It would dig into it. I don't know, to be honest. I'm sure they have everything, or you can just buy those little. I use them on my hardwood floors and the tables, but you could probably that little velvet. Spongy material might help with it. So, next thing. Yeah.
So the only thought I have about that, the whole mom side of me is, if you do that, you gotta make sure you teach your kids how to unlock it, cause you don't want them to be stuck in the house during a fire and
During
you
a
can't
fire.
get out.
It is it's one of the things that we actually practice every once in a while, family home evenings, is I try to get them out the hard windows.
Yeah.
So I'll tell them to meet me out front and see the creative ways my kids can get outside, and then to me, I rehearse that and make that as a way that people can get in my house, so. Because kids are the smartest thieves there are. All right, so the cop's favorite is lights, okay? So when I was going through this, there's two forms of lights out there. There's the exterior lights and the interior lights. So what are some things we can do on the inside with lights to scare off burglars?
A timer.
Timers. They're not expensive, they're under $10 and you can buy them, and you basically can just plug them in, you plug the lamp into it or something, and it'll just constantly rotate the light. So me and my wife have a debate over this one, because it has to be dark for me to sleep. I'm a very, very light sleeper. I think it's probably through training. I hear everything. So I'm not too worried that a burglar will get in my house without me hearing it, because I hear everything. But lights bug me too. And so we've had this argument, where would we put the light to keep that going? So we haven't done it yet. It's something after going through this and me and her just talking over what I wanted to talk about and kind of go through, we came up with some ideas that we're gonna do. So we got a couple windows downstairs.
So we do the light on the timer when we leave, you know.
Yeah, go out of town.
But with 3%, is that what you said, 3% burglars at night typically?
Yeah,
Is it worth?
it's more during the day.
Yeah,
I think anything that'll protect you,
yeah.
you know, it's just a precaution. I wouldn't know in all reality. And I'll actually ask that question. So I work with a lot of cops, so the military's full of them. But, so exterior lights. The cops say their favorite thing are the lights that are motion sensor lights. They're one of the biggest deterrents for scaring away a burglar at night. Is you're walking around, you think you're being all inconspicuous, you think you're hiding really well, and all of a sudden, boom, there it is, it turns on. And we're really fortunate in this neighborhood, because every motion sensor light you turn on going downhill flashes right in your neighbor's windows. So you're gonna wake your neighbor up, and it's gonna help you not get stolen. So I know my neighbors quiet, they love my lights, you know, down below, so it's very bright. But I asked if there's a difference in brightness, you know, is it important? And they said one of the key things they would do is never go cheap on the lights that you put on the outside of your house. It's just the best thing that you can do to protect yourself is those motion lights. So a couple other things, and we'll just kind of go over it and talk for a second more, is shrubs. My mom is my favorite person when it comes to talking about shrubs and making it hard. My mom used to have these bushes, they would grow about this tall, and they had little purple flowers on top of them, and she put them right in front of every one of our windows through our house to block out light. So it'd be a little darker in the house, because we were a east-facing house growing up, so the sun would set right in the windows. And so she built these big things. So we as kids used to play hide and seek. They were the greatest things on earth. But as I got older, I started to realize they were the greatest thing for a burglary. So they ask that you trim your bushes. Keep your landscaping down to a point where it's harder for people to be able to walk up and out from your house easily like that.
Blackberry bushes and holly works really well.
Well, they actually listed that. They said a great deterrent is thorn bushes, like roses and things like that. Kind of put them in the area. No one wants to get thorns on them. So we already talked about the TVs inside. So, all right. Yep.
So we came out from watching a movie late at one of the neighbors, and right when we came out, there's two kids, they looked like they were probably 18, 19 years old, and as soon as we came out, they split, and one went up the road, one went down the road. We're like, it's like
That's
1 in the
strange,
morning,
yeah.
2 in the morning, why, you know, where are they going? And they thought that we were in that house, and that we were just gonna like go back in the house. But they didn't know we were going up the street to our house, and so the one kid is walking up the street, he's like, oh, what do I do now? And the other guy's like, well, hey, where are you going, you know? So we got to our house, and the one guy just turns around and walks back, and then we see him meet up and looking through the windows, and then we're like, this doesn't seem right, you know, so we started calling the police, and I was watching them with the lights off, because they can't see you, but you can see them, and I saw them walking up the street, up Lilac, and then they turn. And I was like, oh, maybe they're just out, you know, working out or something like that. And I see him go up the driveway, the chapel's house now, and I see him go up, and I see him try to pull the door on the car to check to see if the door was open. And then they walked back down the driveway and left, and I was like, no, those guys are up to no good. So, you know, then the cops came and tried to find them. They couldn't find, you know, drive around and find them. But after that, I always tell them out, you know, like we don't have the garage door openers in the car if it's gonna be parked outside, cause
Absolutely.
if it was open, they grab that and then they come back whenever they want, and they're right in your house, with no slowdown at all. And then, any, you know, house keys and stuff like that, you want, so, a lot of times the kids will leave the van unlocked, and people can do whatever they want in their car with it, and no one will even know that they're there at night, and then they can come back in the day whenever they want, so.
See, I actually appreciate you saying that, because I have a 16-year-old boy that drives this old rusted out Bronco, and he doesn't park in the garage, and he kept taking my garage door opener, and I kept taking it back from him, and he'd ask me about it, and I'm like, I don't want you to give an entry into our house, that's just too easy. I said, your vehicle's old, someone breaks it, we might not notice that they broke your window and get in and flip something.
This also with the garage door opener, when you take your car in to have it serviced or something, I don't put it in my purse.
Put it in your purse.
Yeah, cause you might not notice it's gone for 4 years or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Well, and garage door openers are really, this is just kind of a side note that has not a lot to pertain to it, but we used, in training for weapons of mass destruction, we would build devices that were similar to bombs, IEDs and things like that. We weren't bomb techs, but we just had to know what we were looking at, so we would play. And garage door opener is one of our favorite things, because you can steal the frequency on a garage door opener. You can do whatever you want in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I just programmed a new car, and you just take your old one,
into it.
push button into the car one,
window.
sync it, and if they did that to their car, they could just bring their car around to your car
They
and do it.
can, a lot of those frequencies repeat, so they can just drive around and keep pushing buttons until a garage door opens. So, garage door openers, I don't let my kids have keys. It's really inconvenient to get called, or you're at dinner on a date or something, and one of your kids gets home and they call you 50 times how they get in the house, and it's like, you're a kid, run circles or something until I get home, you know. 'Cause I'm not gonna use- keys are really easy, they can take a key from a kid and get in the house easy. Belongings. So I found this really interesting. So the way they listed your belongings in your house to help deter burglars is, where's the number one place we put our keys, our wallets, our purses, our money, even prescription pills? Where's the number one place most people put that in their house?
Kitchen medicine cabinet.
Or the nightstand? I know,
Nice one.
I've seen it all over. It's really convenient. Walk in by your bed, throw your keys, your wallet into a bowl or whatever you have, throw everything in there and walk off. And so they actually say don't put that stuff there. That's the most obvious place to look, because they want to get in and out of your house fast. So that they're going to run right into the master bedroom. It's the number one place they go every time. They run straight for the master bedroom because that's where the drugs are and that's where the money is. And so they'll go in there. So it says spread them out. And the other thing that I found kind of interesting is don't put it under your mattress. People, okay. I have a rule of thumb in the military. If the military tells us that we can't do it, it's because somebody did it. A soldier did that. And so I read this as don't put it on your mattress because people do that. It's very common. So if you're a cash hoarder or gold hoarder, my son believes in buying gold, and I have a friend that sells it, and he buys the gold from the friend, and it's under his bed. And I laugh every time I told him when we were talking about this. But so who here has personal safes? I can't tell you how many I have, and I won't, but I have a lot of personal safes. Bolt them down. They're easy to pick up. The drill can pop right through them. They're gone. So, not talking guns, but I have a lot of guns in safes. And I would be more hurt if they took my guns than if they took my cash. So any weapon that I have in a gun safe is definitely bolted down. I'd rather them take a safe and feel happy and run, but I'd be sad if they took my guns. But okay, a couple other things. So you're home during the day and there's a loud knock at the door, and you go to the door. I know my biggest pet peeve is my 6-year-old has to be the one to open the door and sprint straight for it to open it. I swear one of these times I'm going to figure out some way to scare her so she stops doing it, because talking to her as a gentle parent isn't working. So I've tried love, so we're going to probably get to scare tactics, but she runs straight for the door, flips it open and says hi. And then usually she comes running back, Mom, Dad, door. It's like, okay. So they always say, if you don't have windows by your door, seriously, just yell through, who is it? I know it sounds corny, I know we kind of actually think, wow, that kind of sounds weird. It's probably just a neighbor coming over, and probably 99 out of 100 times it's going to be, or even more than that. But you never, you know, you can always, it's better.
My teenagers still don't answer the door.
You know what, I have
That
a
gets
theory. I'm gonna know
aggravating,
who's
though.
coming over, so if it's a solicitor or something, I'm probably not gonna answer the door anyway, so they can call me ahead of time.
Peepholes are really cheap, and they're really easy to put in. Every
They
house I
are,
move
yeah.
into, I put in a peephole, and this time we have an intercom, and it actually is really awkward for the salespeople, because I'll go to the intercom and I'll be like, what do you need? And they're like, and I'm like, sorry, no soliciting, it says on the door, and I walk away, so they're like, either they stand there and talk to the door, or they leave, because I'm like, I don't have to open the door for you, you know, and.
I like it. I didn't get into security systems because, well, we know how many there are out there and how many capabilities there are, but that's one of them. My brother-in-law, he works for BYU and he has customers, and Vivint is one of his customers, so they give him the whole awesome package in his house. And he can sit on his doorbell will ring, and he can pull out his iPad real quick and see who's ringing his doorbell from wherever he's at. And he can actually answer it and be like, hey, you need to go away, I'm not gonna come answer the door, I don't accept solicitors. They have no idea if he's there or not, but he can see everything that's going on through his phone. Yeah, it's pretty
I
impressive.
think you can buy those even without.
You can, there's commercial markets that you can just buy, it's a camera and it just pipes through your Wi-Fi and you can see it there. That's what I was saying, I didn't wanna get into that because we could probably spend a long time doing it.
I think some of us are under the misconception that we have to answer our door.
Yeah, it's common courtesy.
We don't,
It's rude if you don't.
yeah.
Yeah. We're getting to the point though, it's okay to be rude periodically. Sorry. But, one of the things that came from the knock at the door that I found, and it's on the website a little lower, and I can't, it's all right, oh, it's still there. So down further, we put them under some of the links, and it might be gone because we couldn't find out how we might have removed it, but one of the things that's going around Facebook right now is talking about rubber bands. And I don't know who's seen that article, but who has those doors where you can walk up to the front door and grab the handle and push your thumb to open it and walk in? Does anybody have that?
I do.
You said you did?
Yeah.
So one of the trends they're saying out there right now is they're taking rubber bands and they're pushing it over the top of the thumb thing and tightening it down below and then knocking on your door. Because when you come to open the door, if you try to shut it, that rubber band holds it in place and doesn't allow you to shut the door again. So, because that door is gonna help. If you can get the door shut, there's some form of protection and then you can try to lock the doorway holding it. You won't be able to do that. And that was just recently going around. I don't know if you're familiar with Snopes, but Snopes says it's not been identified true or false if that's what's going on. And they called the police department that was in the article, and the police department's like, we have a lot of things happen. So Snopes said they don't know if it's true or not. So watch your doors.
So I was a little confused, is that, they're doing that to get right back in?
So
or to get back in
they
later?
do it on the door, and then
Yeah.
they knock like they're solicitors.
Right.
So when you come and open the inside of the door, and you're like, I'm not interested, if they start to come in,
Yeah.
and you try to push that door shut, your actual door does not function,
Right.
so it won't lock,
Yeah.
like shut.
Force it right back open.
So they can just push right in on
Gotcha,
you.
okay.
On that same note, a lot of people will do the chains on their door,
Mhm.
and they feel like that's a sense of security when they open the door a little bit to find out who it is. And most of the time, they're only installed on the door frame,
Yeah.
just like the molding, and so you can, just by barely pushing it, you can break the
We're
molding and
gonna,
come right in.
at the end of this, we're gonna show a little video about, kind of along those lines, so we'll cover a little bit. It's more about the screws that you put into your door.
Yeah, you can put big old screws in it.
You can
and they'll
put
go into
3-inch,
that.
3.5-inch screws in your doors, and we'll show you where, and it actually makes total sense,
Mhm.
and I didn't think about it. So, last couple things, we'll jump through them pretty quick. So, they want you to photograph the items in your house. They want you to build an itemized list. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, not only insurance-wise, but for police departments. So, I did this a couple years back, when I was living in South Jordan. We went around our house and we took pictures of all of our items, and then we wrote an itemized list of what it cost us to buy at the time. We put it in an envelope and put it in one of my safes. So if I ever was robbed, I can pull that back out and say, I own this item, and here's how much it costs. I mean, it was just, the cop said it's the best thing you can do if you handed them a sheet and said, this is what I had in my house. And then this is, they can walk around and see if it's missing or not. So itemize it. Take pictures, write the value, put it in a safe place, an envelope or something. So those are a lot of the things. Is there anything that anybody else wants to add to some things that you can do to protect your house?
I don't remember the exact terminology, but, normally when we're sleeping, we're in the yellow zone and orange zone. So you don't hear a lot of, except for maybe you, cause you're a light sleeper.
It just depends.
But, if someone breaks in like to the basement, we're not gonna hear it upstairs in my master bedroom.
Mhm.
And, so I was learning about dogs. Dogs have a white zone. They don't, even when they're sleeping, they still hear everything.
Everything, yeah.
So if you choose to have a dog, they're actually a really good, warning. So if someone starts getting into your house, they will wake you up.
They actually have it on the list, and I just didn't put it down. I should have put it down, but a dog's a great thing. So I have spent about 5 years of my life away from my family, traveling in different countries and stuff. And I would say my wife's dogs have probably been the best thing comfort-wise for me.
Yeah.
Because as much as, not speaking guns, but as much as I've taught my wife to shoot guns, she doesn't have the comfort level that I do. And so it's always been a nervous thing for me that if she had to defend herself, how would she do it because of the warning thing. And the dogs have always been a good thing. We have one of the biggest dogs you'll see, and it's intimidating. It's not the thing. It's just a blocker. It'll just get in the way of someone coming in the house. She'll get away.
Do you think so? Because I've seen so many dogs that are super, super friendly, but if it comes in a situation where they need to protect.
I'm pretty sure
family?
this dog's not doing anything. It's like, as soon as I get up, it gets on my side of the bed, and it's about 180 pounds. It's a St. Bernard. It drives me insane. So.
I think you need to have a plan too.
You do.
And you need to have a certain area of space and a way to defend yourself, especially in the night. We always close our door, and being a former Marine, there is no doubt in my mind he has no problem. Once he hits a certain amount of space, he will shoot.
Yeah.
And we're going to take some training this week, have concealed weapon permits, and I always think of my grandchildren, and being a counselor, I have counseled way too many people that have been raped and abused and on and so forth, and I don't have a problem with that, because in my mind, there's a certain amount of space, and once you hit that space, you intend to do harm.
Well, and so
you warn.
Part
of that plan is warning.
It is warning.
Stop, I'll shoot.
It is very, they need to know that, but the church's policy, I was hoping we could get an explanation a little better from the stake on, as it pertains to weapons, because I called Kelly a couple days ago and I was like, what is the stance? You know, I consider myself to be a gun nut, but I don't want to cover something that's not supposed to be covered. I know that's kind of an area, so I will just say, if you are going to own a weapon, you need to know how to own that weapon. You need to shoot that gun. I'll give you an example. My father-in-law thought he was very good with guns, and he wasn't. I knew he wasn't. And we went shooting one day, and we had 3 different guns up, and one was a .22, which is a little bullet. And then we had a .38 special, which was a little bigger, and then we had a .357, and the gun was massive, this big handgun. And we were doing the shooting competition. You grab the one gun, shoot, grab the next gun, shoot, and grab the last gun and shoot. So he pulls the gun up, shoots the .22, pulls the .38 up, shoots it, grabs the .357, pulls the trigger, and hits him right in the forehead with the back of the hammer. He bled everywhere. We had to get like stitches right up here. And so I always use that as an example when I'm teaching people that is, if you're going to use those, you need to understand what you're using. And that's all we'll really kind of cover over it. So lastly, we got a little video that we downloaded, and it's just about the screws, and we'll just finish up with that for tonight. Will it, do you think it'll launch to it?
I think it, I don't know.
If it's YouTube, it might be blocked.
Yeah, it may be blocked.
It may be blocked. It is. I was gonna bring my own internet. It is blocked.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to research it, just go on YouTube and type in reinforced home doors. And it'll come up with one of the links. And basically the theory is, it's about a 2-minute video this guy shows you that the average screw that they put in all doors is about that big. It's like, a 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch max. So you think about the amount of force that it takes to bust through a door by just that much hole bit. But the actual frames themselves, when they frame most doors, they actually put 2 2x4s together, and then they put a header on top. So you're looking at 2x12 by 2 2x4s. So you've got a fairly decent amount of space in there. And so the recommendation on this to actually help protect yourself is to get a 3.5-inch screw and replace them. But when they put this out first, the first video was kind of funny because he was talking about it, people were doing that. But what they were doing was where your bolt comes in and hits right there, and there's the 2 little screws above the bolt that you can see right there, they were replacing those. So people were kicking the back side of the door and breaking the door in. If you do decide to do that, replace everything in that door, and it'll help. So, as far as security goes, you know, I hope we never have to deal with it as a stake or a ward. It'd be horrible. There's enough bad things out there that we don't need it here in our place. But if you ever need anything, Kelly found out, you can probably text me at any point, and I will answer it. I was called at midnight last night, and I answered it. So it's just my life. But you know, I appreciate this time. Just finished with my testimony that, you know, I know the church is true. I know it's a tough time in our lives. I take this calling serious. I need to, you know, spend more time on trying to offer up